It started with my 14-year-old daughter refusing to look me in the eye at dinner. For weeks, she'd been distant, almost hostile, a complete shift from our once close relationship. That night, when I asked about her day, she mumbled something unintelligible and glared at my wife, who gave her a subtle nod. That exchange, that single nod, sent alarms ringing through my body. "Going to bed early tonight," my wife announced, quickly gathering her plate. Another night of her disappearing into our bedroom with her phone, door locked, hushed conversations I wasn't meant to hear. 3 months of this behavior, late night, emergency work meetings, new passwords on her devices, and a growing emotional distance that couldn't be ignored. I'm not a fool. After 15 years of marriage, you develop a sense for when something's wrong. But I never expected my own daughter would be recruited against me. The cold shoulders, the secretive whispers that stopped when I entered rooms, the way she suddenly questioned my every move. It all made sense now. My wife was using our child as a pawn in whatever game she was playing. That night, instead of confronting them, I made a decision that would change everything. If they wanted secrets, I'd uncover them. I waited until they both slept, then accessed our shared cloud account from my office computer. What I found made my blood run cold. Hundreds of messages between my wife and someone saved as work project. Explicit photos. Plans for meetups at hotels during her supposed business trips. As my fingers scrolled through months of betrayal, I discovered something far worse. Messages to our daughter. "Your father wouldn't understand our special friendship. He's too controlling, too jealous. Remember what I told you about keeping our conversations private? It's better if he doesn't know I've been seeing someone who appreciates me. You're such a good daughter for helping mommy." The manipulation was calculated and cruel. She'd been systematically turning our daughter against me to cover her affair, teaching our child to lie, to spy on me, to report my movements, all while painting herself as the victim of an imaginary controlling husband. I closed the laptop, a cold clarity washing over me. Most men might have exploded, confronted her in rage. Not me. I sat back in my chair, a plan already forming. She thought she had all the power with my daughter as her accomplice. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next morning, I acted normal. Kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her. She had no idea I'd spent the night documenting everything, backing up evidence, and contacting a private investigator. No idea I'd already consulted a lawyer who confirmed my suspicions about money being moved from our joint accounts to a private one in her name. While she thought she was cleverly spinning her web of lies, I was quietly building the trap that would eventually expose everything. The game had changed. She believed she was manipulating the situation, using our daughter as a shield against consequences. But I hadn't survived years in business by being easily outmaneuvered. I knew exactly what needed to be done. This wasn't just about the affair anymore. This was about rescuing my daughter from her mother's psychological manipulation and restoring the truth. And I would do it without losing my dignity or control for even a second. The depth of manipulation ran deeper than I initially realized. After installing monitoring software on our home network, I discovered the full extent of my wife's deception. She hadn't just been sleeping with another man. She'd been methodically turning my daughter into an unwitting accomplice. Late that night, reviewing the recovered messages between them, I found conversations that made my jaw clench. "Remember to tell me if your father checks his bank statements," one read. Another, "When your father asks where I was last night, tell him I was with you at the movies. It's not really lying if it protects our family from his anger issues." Anger issues. I almost laughed. In 15 years, I'd never raised my voice at either of them. Yet here she was, fabricating an alternate reality where I was some volatile monster they needed to protect themselves from. All to justify her betrayal. What struck me most wasn't the affair itself. Affairs happen. It was the psychological warfare she waged on our daughter, planting seeds of doubt about my character, making a child complicit in adult deception. That crossed a line I couldn't forgive. I found dozens of deleted messages where my wife coached our daughter on how to spy on me. "Check if he's looking at his phone when he thinks no one's watching, and tell me if he stays up late in his office." My daughter's responses showed initial reluctance that gradually transformed into active participation. "He was on his computer for 2 hours after you went to bed, and I checked his car mileage like you asked." The investigator I'd hired confirmed what I suspected. My wife had been meeting her lover at a condo across town every Tuesday and Thursday, supposedly during her yoga class. The same class my daughter believed I prevented her mother from attending, another fabricated grievance used to fuel resentment against me. Most revealing was an exchange from just 3 days ago. "Mom, is it wrong that we're lying to Dad?" My wife's response made my blood boil. Sometimes lying is necessary when dealing with controlling men. Your father wouldn't understand adult relationships. When you're older, you'll understand we did what we had to do. I closed my laptop, a strange calm settling over me. A weaker man might have confronted her immediately, hurling accusations and ultimatums. But that would only reinforce the false narrative she'd created. I needed to be strategic, methodical. This wasn't just about exposing an affair. It was about reclaiming my daughter's trust. Over breakfast the next morning, I noticed my daughter watching me cautiously as I sipped my coffee. Testing a theory, I mentioned needing to work late that evening. Her hand immediately reached for her phone beneath the table. Reporting to her mother, no doubt. Instead of calling her out, I smiled. "Actually, I was thinking we could have dinner together tonight, just the two of us. Been a while since we've had father-daughter time." The confused look on her face confirmed everything. She'd been so conditioned to see me as the enemy that a simple dinner invitation seemed suspicious. "I have homework," she mumbled. "No problem," I replied casually. Another time. As I left for work, I finalized my plan. The private investigator would document my wife's rendezvous that afternoon. My lawyer was preparing divorce papers with evidence of financial infidelity. But most importantly, I was implementing a strategy to break through the wall of lies between my daughter and me. Not through confrontation, but through patience and irrefutable truth. Executing my plan required precision and patience. The first phase focused on my daughter, breaking through the wall of manipulation without revealing I knew what her mother had done. I started small, leaving notes in her lunch bag like I used to when she was younger. Not emotional pleas, just simple acknowledgments of her existence. "Ace that math test," or "good luck at volleyball." No pressure, no questions. After a week, I noticed her watching me with confusion rather than contempt. The narrative her mother had created, that I was some controlling monster, wasn't matching her direct experience. The cognitive dissonance was exactly what I wanted. Meanwhile, the private investigator delivered damning evidence. Photos of my wife entering a high-rise apartment building downtown every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon. Security footage of them dining at restaurants while I worked late. Most disturbing was a recording of them laughing about me in a hotel bar. "He has no idea," she said. "He's too busy working to notice anything. And even if he suspected something, our daughter thinks he's practically the villain in our story." That night, I checked our finances again. Over the past year, nearly $40,000 had been siphoned from our joint savings account into an unknown account. Small withdrawals, nothing that would immediately trigger suspicion. My lawyer confirmed what I already knew. This constituted financial infidelity on top of the emotional and physical betrayal. The next morning, I called in a favor with an IT specialist friend who discreetly installed recording devices in the living room and kitchen. Legal in our state since I owned the property. I wasn't looking for explicit evidence of the affair. I had plenty. I needed proof of the manipulation. That weekend, I suggested taking my daughter shopping, something she once enjoyed. Surprisingly, she agreed. As we drove to the mall, I kept conversation light, avoiding anything that could be interpreted as prying or controlling. "You know," I said casually, "I miss our talks. Remember when we used to discuss everything?" She glanced at me, suspicion in her eyes. "That was before." "Before what?" I asked, maintaining a neutral tone. She shrugged, retreating back into silence. But it was progress, the first acknowledgement that something had changed between us. At the mall, I noticed her eyeing a dress she clearly wanted but didn't ask for. Without comment, I purchased it. When she questioned why, I simply said, "Because it made you smile." No strings attached. The confusion on her face was evident. This didn't align with the narrative of the controlling father who needed to be monitored and deceived. Small cracks were forming in the story she'd been fed. That night, the recording devices captured exactly what I needed. My wife, on the phone with her lover. "It's all going according to plan. I've moved another $5,000 into the secret account. Once the divorce happens, he'll have no idea how much I've set aside. And with our daughter firmly on my side, custody won't be an issue. I've made sure she believes he's been the problem all along." The next recording was even more valuable, my wife coaching my daughter. "Remember, if he asks about my late meetings, just say I've told you all about the project I'm working on." And make sure to mention how stressed I've been because of his lack of support. The manipulation was more calculated than I'd imagined. Yet instead of anger, I felt a cold determination. Every piece of evidence strengthened my position. Every recording, bank statement, and photograph was another link in the chain I was forging, not to bind me to this marriage, but to secure my freedom and my relationship with my daughter. The following week, I scheduled a meeting with my lawyer, bringing all the evidence I'd gathered. His eyebrows raised as he reviewed everything. With this, he said, you're in a position of strength for both the divorce and custody arrangements. The question is, how do you want to proceed? I leaned forward, my decision already made. I want to give her enough rope to hang herself publicly, and then I want my daughter to see exactly who her mother really is. The recordings from home yielded the final pieces of evidence I needed. Particularly damning was a conversation between my wife and her lover that revealed their future plans. Once the divorce is finalized, we'll move in together, she said. I've already researched schools near your place for my daughter. She'll adjust quickly. I've made sure she blames her father for everything. Her lover laughed. What about your husband's company? Think he suspects you're after a piece of that too. He built that business while we were married. I deserve half of everything, she replied. My lawyer says with the narrative I've created, I could get more if I push for emotional damages. Being married to a controlling man has to be worth something, right? Their casual dismantling of my life, their assumption of victory, it should have infuriated me. Instead, it solidified my resolve. I had one advantage they didn't anticipate. I knew their playbook while they remained oblivious to mine. Through my investigator, I learned something particularly interesting about her lover. He wasn't single as she believed. He was married with 2 young children, maintaining elaborate lies about business trips to cover his time with my wife. A con man recognizing another con, I supposed. That evening, I sent a brief text to my wife. Let's have dinner tomorrow night. Just us. We need to talk. Her response was immediate, almost eager. Sure. Everything okay? Playing the concerned wife, a role she perfected. I prepared meticulously for our dinner, not with accusations or anger, but with a carefully constructed scenario that would reveal exactly who she was dealing with. I reserved a private room at her favorite restaurant and arrived early to set everything up. When she walked in, wearing the dress she'd bought with our joint account funds, I greeted her with a glass of wine and a smile. You look beautiful tonight, I said, meaning it despite everything. She always had been stunning, both inside and out, until corruption took hold of one while preserving the other. You seem different, she remarked, studying me as we settled into dinner. More relaxed. I've had some revelations recently, I replied, maintaining eye contact. Sometimes clarity comes when you least expect it. She shifted slightly, the first sign of discomfort. What kind of revelations? Instead of answering directly, I asked, how's your project coming along? The one keeping you at work so late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Her expression betrayed nothing. Years of deception making her an expert liar. It's finally wrapping up. The client has been demanding, but the extra hours are worth it for the commission. I nodded thoughtfully, taking a sip of wine. And your yoga instructor, what was his name? The one you see at the High Point Apartments downtown. The color drained from her face. For 3 seconds, she said nothing, recalibrating her response. Then she laughed, a practice sound. What are you talking about? My yoga studio is across town. That's when I placed my phone on the table, screen up, displaying photos of her entering the apartment building with her lover, timestamp clearly visible. Your yoga sessions seem quite intimate, I said calmly, especially the ones in hotel rooms. You've been spying on me, she hissed, instantly shifting to offense. Classic manipulation. Make me the villain for uncovering her betrayal. I've been protecting myself, I corrected her. Just like you've been protecting our daughter from me by poisoning her mind with lies. Her eyes widened slightly before narrowing. She deserves to know what kind of man her father really is. I placed a small recorder on the table and pressed play. Her own voice filled our private dining room. Once the divorce happens, he'll have no idea how much I've set aside. And with our daughter firmly on my side, custody won't be an issue. I've made sure she believes he's been the problem all along. As the recording continued, her face transformed, shock giving way to calculation. I could practically see her mind racing, searching for an escape route, an explanation, a way to turn this around. When I stopped the recording, she reached across the table, touching my hand. Tears formed in her eyes. Impressive how quickly she could produce them. I was confused, afraid. You've been so distant lately. Can't we work through this? For our daughter. I gently removed my hand from hers. I've already spoken with my lawyer. The divorce papers are being prepared. But given what I've discovered about your financial activities, I'm offering you a choice. The tears vanished instantly. What choice? You can fight me and lose everything. The house, your reputation, possibly even custody, given the psychological manipulation I've documented. Or you can agree to my terms, which are considerably more generous than you deserve. For the first time in our conversation, genuine emotion crossed her face, pure, unadulterated rage. She'd been outplayed and knew it. You wouldn't dare expose this to our daughter. I stood, placing several $100 bills on the table to cover dinner. I don't need to expose anything. You've done that yourself. The question is whether you want the world to see it too. My wife's retaliation came swiftly after our dinner confrontation. Returning home that night, I found her whispering intently to our daughter in the living room, their conversation stopping abruptly when I entered. The look my daughter gave me, a mixture of confusion and renewed hostility, told me everything I needed to know. My wife was doubling down on her manipulation. Over breakfast the next morning, I overheard her phone conversation with her lawyer in the bedroom. I don't care what evidence he claims to have. I want full custody and half his business. He's threatening me. Isn't that grounds for a restraining order? Rather than intervene, I let the scene play out. Every desperate move she made now only strengthened my position. That afternoon, I received texts from mutual friends asking if everything was okay. Apparently, my wife had been calling them, claiming I'd become unstable and threatening. Classic preemptive strategy, discredit me before I could expose her. It was time for the next phase of my plan. I texted my daughter after school. Can we talk when you get home? Just 15 minutes. Your choice of location. Her response came an hour later. Fine. Backyard. When she arrived home, I was already waiting on the patio, 2 sodas on the table, her favorite kind. She sat across from me, arms crossed defensively. Mom said you're trying to turn me against her, she stated flatly. I nodded slowly. I figured she might say that. Before we talk, I want to establish one rule. I won't ask you to believe anything without evidence. Fair. Her eyes narrowed, but she nodded reluctantly. For months, you've been distant, almost hostile toward me, I began. That's your right. But I need to know, what exactly did I do to deserve it? She shifted uncomfortably. You control Mom. You never let her do anything. You track her movements and question her all the time. Interesting, I replied. When was the last time you saw me do any of those things? She opened her mouth, then closed it, frowning. Mom said you do it when I'm not around. I see. I took out my phone. Would you be willing to look at something? You can stop anytime you want. After a moment's hesitation, she nodded. I played a carefully edited recording. Her mother coaching her on what to tell me about her whereabouts, followed by the conversation with her lover about manipulating custody arrangements. Nothing explicit, nothing inappropriate for a teenager to hear, but enough to plant seeds of doubt. As she listened, her expression cycled through disbelief, confusion, and the beginnings of understanding. When it finished, she stared at the phone, then at me. That could be fake, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. It could be, I acknowledged. But ask yourself, have you ever actually seen me track your mother's movements or control her? Or have you only been told I do these things? She looked away, processing. I didn't push. This moment needed space to breathe. Why would Mom lie about that? She finally asked, her voice smaller. That's a conversation for another time, I replied gently. But I want you to know something. Regardless of what happens between your mother and me, you will always be my daughter. Nothing changes that. Before she could respond, the patio door flew open. My wife stood there, fury evident on her face. What are you doing? I told you not to talk to her alone. My daughter flinched at her mother's tone. An instinctive reaction spoke volumes. We're just talking, I said calmly, as father and daughter. He played me a recording, my daughter said, watching her mother carefully, of you talking to someone about custody arrangements. The color drained from my wife's face before anger replaced it. He's manipulating you. Those recordings are doctored. He's desperate because I'm finally leaving him. I remained seated, calm. Perhaps we should all listen to them together? I have plenty more. My wife's eyes darted between us, calculation evident. Then she switched tactics entirely, tears suddenly streaming down her face. How could you do this to our family, she sobbed. After everything I've sacrificed for you. My daughter watched this display with growing unease. The performance too dramatic, too convenient. "I think I'm going to go to Grandma's," my daughter announced suddenly, standing up. "I need time to think." My wife's tears vanished instantly. "You're not going anywhere. We need to talk about what your father is trying to do." "Actually," I interjected, "I think some space would be good for everyone." I looked at my daughter. "Your grandmother would love to see you. I can drive you over whenever you're ready." The rage in my wife's eyes told me she recognized what was happening. Her carefully constructed narrative was unraveling. Our daughter, for the first time in months, was thinking for herself rather than parroting her mother's perspective. As my daughter went upstairs to pack a small bag, my wife hissed at me, "This isn't over. I'll make sure you regret this." I met her gaze steadily. "No, it isn't over. But it will be soon, on my terms, not yours." For once, I saw genuine fear flash across her face. The tables had turned, and we both knew it. The final phase of my plan came together faster than anticipated. While my daughter stayed with her grandmother for a week, my wife escalated her attempts to control the narrative. She called a family meeting at our home, inviting her parents, my parents, and several close friends, allegedly to discuss the concerning changes in my behavior. The perfect stage for her victimhood performance, and the perfect opportunity for me to end this charade once and for all. I arrived early that Sunday, setting up discreetly in the living room. When everyone gathered, concerned faces turned toward me as my wife began her carefully rehearsed speech. "Thank you all for coming," she began, voice trembling expertly. "This is difficult, but I'm worried about him. He's been tracking my movements, accusing me of terrible things, even turning our daughter against me with false recordings." She dabbed at non-existent tears. "I've tried to protect our family, but I'm afraid for our safety now." The concerned murmurs from our assembled family and friends were exactly what she wanted. Her parents exchanged knowing glances. Clearly, she'd already primed them with her version of events. "Is this true?" my father asked, looking at me with confusion. I stood slowly, calm and composed. "Before I respond, I think it's important we all have the complete picture." I moved to the entertainment center and pressed a button on the remote. The large TV screen flickered to life, displaying a digital timeline labeled with dates and evidence types. For the past 3 months, I've documented a pattern of behavior that tells quite a different story. I clicked through the presentation methodically. Bank statements showing systematic withdrawals to a hidden account. Photos from the private investigator showing my wife entering hotels and apartments with her lover. Screenshots of text messages between them discussing their affair and plans post-divorce. The room fell silent as the evidence mounted. But I saved the most damning for last. The audio recordings of my wife coaching our daughter to spy on me and lie to me, followed by conversations with her lover about manipulating custody arrangements. Her voice filled the room. "I've made sure she believes he's been the problem all along. Once the divorce happens, he won't see either of us again if I have my way." I turned off the TV and faced the room. I discovered all of this about 3 weeks ago. Rather than confront her immediately, I documented everything thoroughly. Not just the affair. Affairs happen. But the systematic manipulation of our daughter, the financial deception, and now this attempt to turn all of you against me with manufactured concerns about my stability. My wife sat frozen, her performance abandoned as she realized the depth of her exposure. Her mother stared at her in shock while her father looked away, embarrassed. My parents exchanged glances of understanding, finally comprehending my recent reserved behavior. "You're all obviously welcome to review every piece of evidence," I continued. "I have nothing to hide. What you've witnessed today isn't a mental breakdown or controlling behavior. It's simply the truth coming to light." I turned directly to my wife. "I've already spoken with my lawyer. Given the financial fraud and documented psychological manipulation of our child, he believes I have grounds for full custody and a very favorable division of assets. However, I'm still willing to offer you the settlement terms I proposed last week, significantly more generous than what a court would likely award you." Someone, her best friend, I think, gasped audibly. My wife finally found her voice, desperation evident. "You can't do this to me. After everything I've done for you, for this family." "That's precisely why I can," I replied calmly. "Everything you've done is now documented and witnessed. The choice is yours. Accept my terms by tomorrow, or we proceed to court where all of this becomes public record." I walked toward the door, then paused. One more thing. I've already informed her lover's wife about their relationship. She's eager to speak with you, should anyone want her contact information. The stunned silence as I left was more satisfying than any shouting match could have been. Outside, I found my daughter sitting on the front steps. She'd arrived during my presentation and heard everything through the open windows. You knew she was listening, her grandmother said quietly from behind me. Not a question, an observation. I nodded. She deserved to hear the truth, not filtered through either of us. My daughter looked up at me, tears in her eyes, but a strange relief in her expression. All this time I thought. She began. I sat beside her. I know what you thought. That's what she wanted. What happens now? She asked. Now we rebuild, I answered simply. Not the marriage, that's beyond repair. But you and me, we start fresh, with truth as our foundation. 3 days later, my wife signed the settlement agreement. 1 week after that, she moved out of our home. Family and friends who witnessed her exposure gradually stopped taking her calls as the full extent of her manipulation became clear. As for my daughter and me, we're taking it one day at a time. Trust rebuilds slowly, but honesty accelerates the process. She now understands that strength isn't found in controlling others through manipulation, but in maintaining your dignity and principles even when betrayed. Some might call my methodical response to betrayal cold or calculating. I call it self-preservation and protection of what matters most, my relationship with my daughter and my self-respect. In the end, the truth doesn't need drama or vengeance to prevail. It simply needs to be revealed with clear eyes and a steady hand.